WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar, 7 p.m. in Abuja. Good evening and welcome to Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. Here are the top stories. Senegal transport sector experiences minor disruptions in parts of Dakar amid nationwide strike by transport unions citing breach of due process.
This morning, I didn't know that transport workers were on strike. I realized the strike wasn't as widespread as I had expected. I was expecting worse.
Public health symposium gets underway in Nigeria as experts discuss pandemic preparedness and response mechanisms. Niger's livestock export ban triggers mixed reactions.
Not all livestock should be exported. Some should remain in the country.
If this order is fully enforced, we will no longer be able to export animals abroad.
Citizens react as Burkina Faso adopts revolutionary charter which allows Captain Traore's presidential bid. Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Augustine Bill Coley.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. We begin in Senegal, where the transport sector experienced some disruptions in several parts of Dakar Monday following a strike launched by the Federation of Road Transport Unions. This decision came after recent talks with authorities broke down. However, on the ground in Dakar, the impact appears limited so far. Vehicles are generally running, although some users are reporting occasional travel difficulties. WADR's team of reporters visited Koloban and Sandaga to assess the situation. Christopher Aticho has more in this report.
Contrary to earlier announcements by transport operators to embark on a 3-day nationwide strike, major bus terminals were partially operational, with buses and taxis seen on the road. However, several passengers ready to commute to work and various destinations through the morning hours were stranded as some transport unions adhered to the call by the Federation of Road Transport Unions of Senegal.
This morning, I didn't know that transport workers were on strike. When I got to the bus station, they told me that the taxis I usually take were not running today. They were on strike. After that, I took a Tata bus to work. I heard the news last week. I even thought everyone would be affected. So today, when I left home to go shopping, I realized the strike wasn't as widespread as I had expected. I was expecting worse.
The umbrella body is protesting harassment, unfair competition in the sector, and road-related extortion. Fallu Sam, Secretary General of the Federation, says,
The minister suddenly ordered 6,686 public transport vehicles to report to Dakar for technical inspections. That is the first issue. Secondly, in the open taxi sector, there is clear unfair competition from platforms operating without authorization or approval from the relevant authorities. In 2021, we secured an arrangement to reduce the number of checkpoints to ease pressure on drivers. However, that progress was quickly reversed, and drivers are once again constantly asking to pay money at these checkpoints.
While transport operators say they had submitted a notice to Senegal's Ministry of Transport, they later boycotted a meeting with authorities, citing a failure to follow proper procedures. In between, commuters, mostly workers and students, will have to endure the impact of the partial shutdown in the metropolis for the next few days. At the time of filing this report, no official statement was communicated by the Senegalese Ministry of Transport, but the Federation says it remains open to meaningful discussions.
Christopher Aticho fight that report. Meanwhile, in Niger, a new decision is sparking debate within the livestock sector. In early March, the Ministry of Trade and Industry signed an order that formally bans the export of sheep, goats, cattle, and camels. This measure aims to ensure a steady supply for the domestic market. However, it is generating divided opinions, as some argue it protects consumers, while others believe it puts undue pressure on exporters. Usma Uma has the details in the following report.
Under the new directive, any livestock intercepted en route out of the country will be seized and primarily allocated to defense forces operating on the ground. The strict enforcement is raising concerns among industry players already affected by ongoing security challenges. Livestock exporter Al-Kasum Ali shares his concerns.
If this order by the Minister of Trade banning livestock exports from Niger is fully enforced, we will no longer be able to export animals abroad. This will affect everyone in the livestock sector, especially transporters, whose livelihoods depend on this activity. It could also have wider implications for the local economy, where livestock is a major pillar.
The government's move follows repeated complaints from consumers as households continue to decry rising meat prices driven by livestock shortages. Mokhtar Hima, a father, explains.
Not all livestock should be exported. Some should remain in the country. Otherwise, meat will become too expensive for those who cannot afford it.
In this context, experts are weighing in on the long-term viability of the measure. Nigerian economist Soli Abdullahi offers his analysis.
In this context, exporting live animals offers little added value. With plans to establish modern slaughterhouses in Niger, this measure could help stabilize the domestic market over the long term.
The Secretaries General of the Ministries of Trade, Interior and Defense are now leading efforts to enforce the order issued by the Ministry of Trade and Industry.
A report by our Niamey correspondent Yakuba Abibulai, voiced by Usma Uma. Now to bilateral cooperation, because Cote d'Ivoire and Algeria signed a comprehensive cooperation agreement focusing on hydrocarbons, mining and energy. The deal was finalized in August last week by the two countries' energy ministers. The partnership establishes a framework for joint projects across the energy value chain, including exploration, petrochemicals, transport and skills transfer. Algeria says it is ready to support Cote d'Ivoire's energy sector, drawing on its experience through steel oil company Sonatrach. Additionally, Abidjan views the agreement as a key step in accelerating sector reforms and strengthening South-South cooperation. Meanwhile, the West African region is observing a growing regional economic cooperation, particularly through a new strategic partnership. This cooperation includes the recent signing of a memorandum of understanding between the Economic Community of West African States and the International Monetary Fund, IMF. The agreement, signed last week at the ECOWAS headquarters in Abuja, aims to strengthen macroeconomic governance within the sub-region. Sankule Janko gives the details in the following report.
The document was signed by the President of the ECOWAS Commission, Omar Aliou Touré, and the IMF Executive Director for West Africa, Wadr. The partnership seeks to enhance the coordination of economic and financial policies while building capacity in key areas such as fiscal policy, debt management, and statistical systems. According to both officials, the agreement is also expected to deepen policy dialogue, improve regional macroeconomic surveillance, and advance the West African Monetary Union project. This partnership forms part of a broader cooperation between ECOWAS and several international partners, with the aim of supporting growth and strengthening public policies across the region. It also comes at a time when the IMF is calling up support programs for West African countries, reflecting a commitment to accompany economic reforms at the regional level. Both parties say the strengthened cooperation signals the progress toward the ECOWAS single currency project, considered a key driver of economic integration in West Africa.
A report voiced by Sankule Janko.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
And in health matters, Nigeria is strengthening efforts to prepare for future health emergencies. The federal government is hosting a public health symposium on pandemic preparedness and response mechanisms. The gathering highlights the importance of learning from past global health crises, particularly COVID-19, while fostering international collaboration to improve response strategies and protect public health. Our Abuja correspondent Yeche Nusasetu reports.
The symposium brings together key stakeholders in the health sector to assess lessons from the COVID-19 pandemic and improve response strategies for future outbreaks. Minister of State for Health Isiaq Adekunle Salako says the pandemic exposed critical gaps in healthcare systems.
The COVID-19 pandemic, which occurred between 2020 and 2023, according to WHO, claimed over 7 million lives worldwide. It did not merely test our health systems. It reminded us that infectious diseases knows no borders. It shatters assumptions and revealed that even the wealthiest countries will be brought to their knees by pandemic.
Speaking on global collaboration, World Health Organization country representative Pavel Ursu stressed the need for countries to work together in sharing knowledge to better manage health crises.
What does it mean in practice? It means that when countries share information about dangerous pathogens quickly and transparently, the benefits derived from that knowledge. Diagnostics, vaccines, treatments, and technologies must also be shared fairly and rapidly.
Also speaking through a representative, Ambassador of the People's Republic of China to Nigeria, Yu Dunhai, highlighted the importance of partnership between nations in strengthening pandemic preparedness and response.
Against this backdrop, strengthening practical cooperation in public health between China and Nigeria not only meets the shared aspiration of our people for better health and well-being, but also carries both immediate and long-term significance.
The event underscores ongoing efforts to build a more resilient health system through collaboration, innovation, and shared global experiences. For WADR, Yeche Nusasetu in Abuja.
Let's bring you some political developments now. In Benin, political debates are heating up as the 2026 presidential election approaches, with competing candidates presenting their policy platforms. The ruling party's candidate, Rumod Wadaning, is running alongside Paul Hunkwe of the Falls Kore's pool on Benin Emergent. Both are actively campaigning to persuade voters with their visions for the country. For more of this development, let's join Deborah Amour.
Candidate Romuald Wadani launched his campaign in northern Benin, placing the consolidation of institutional gains at the center of his agenda. He placed emphasis on modernizing public administration, expanding the digitalization of services, and strengthening fiscal discipline. The candidate also outlined his vision for the next 7 years if elected president.
Public action in this new phase will focus on tackling widespread poverty. Let me say this morning that these transformations will accelerate. More importantly, for our brothers and sisters in the agricultural sector, we will ensure that farming and livestock rearing are no longer such difficult and demanding activities.
In contrast, Paul Hunkwe of the Force Kori pour un Benin Emergent began his campaign in Cotonou, advocating for institutional rebalancing. In his address, he stressed the need to restore democratic trust through greater political inclusiveness, a review of certain reforms considered restrictive, and stronger social dialogue.
Development must first be human-centered. What is essential should come before what is desirable. We must choose a new path, one that leads to sheer prosperity.
The two candidates vying for Benin's presidency now have 2 weeks to convince voters, as official campaigns are scheduled to end on April 10 at midnight. The next head of state will be elected for a 7-year term.
Our Cotonou correspondent Aziz Adam Sulit's report, voiced by Deborah Amour. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal, and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Senegal transport sector experiences minor disruptions in parts of Dakar amid a nationwide strike by transport unions citing breach of due process. Public Health Symposium gets underway in Nigeria as experts discuss pandemic preparedness and response mechanisms. Niger's livestock export ban triggers mixed reactions. Still ahead in the news, citizens react as Burkina Faso adopts revolutionary charter which allows Captain Traore's presidential bid. We also have guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for being with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Elsewhere, the Gambia's Independent Electoral Commission is training over 50 registration officers ahead of a nationwide voter registration exercise. The training is aimed at equipping officials with the skills needed to effectively manage the process as preparations intensify for the December 2026 general election. From Banjul, WDR's Sandona Mendy completes the story.
The Independent Electoral Commission is stepping up efforts to ensure a free, fair and transparent presidential election in December 2026. Opening the training, IEC Chairman Joseph Colley underscored the importance of voter registration, describing it as a cornerstone of democracy. He noted that the success of the exercise will largely depend on the professionalism and the commitment of registration officers.
You have a critical role to play in this process. Thus, the importance of this training exercise cannot be overemphasized. It is aimed at equipping all of you with the necessary knowledge and skills to enable you to effectively and efficiently perform your tasks in strict compliance with the law.
The chairman also highlighted the importance of collaboration, noting that registration officers will work closely with security services, civil society organizations, and the media to ensure a smooth and credible process. He urged participants to take the training seriously and strictly adhere to electoral laws and guidelines.
The Commission will deploy 100 voter registration teams consisting of 400 registration officers to conduct the exercise across the country. Registration will begin at 8 a.m. and end at 5 p.m. daily.
The right to vote and to be voted for is a fundamental human right enshrined in the 1997 Constitution of the Gambia, with voter registration serving as a key pillar of that right. The supplementary registration exercise is expected to give eligible Gambians who have turned 18 or were previously unable to register the opportunity to be included in the voters' roll ahead of the presidential, parliamentary and local government elections. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Sangdona Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
Now on to Burkina Faso, where the Charter of the Revolution was adopted last Friday. Under the new arrangement, the government and the legislative body have been renamed the Government and People's Legislative Assembly, respectively. Furthermore, Captain Ibrahim Traoré is now authorized to contest the next presidential election that will mark the end of the transitional period. But what do Burkinabe citizens think about this new reform? Our correspondent Martin Kabar took to the streets of Ouagadougou to gather their views.
The adoption of this charter will help provide a clear framework for governance, as managing a republic requires well-defined rules. In my view, this charter now serves as both a guiding reference and a compass for the current leadership.
I was quite surprised that the Assembly had remained the Transitional Legislative Assembly, while the President had already assumed the title of President of FASO. Now things appear to be aligned, with both institutions adopting similar designations, the People's Legislative Assembly and the People's Government. In my view, this brings a sense of consistency.
At the beginning of the transition, we were not yet on this path, as the term itself felt pejorative to us. It reflects a concept imposed from outside. These new designations and name changes further strengthen the ongoing momentum of the popular progressive revolution currently underway in our nation.
Burkinabe citizens reacting to the adoption of the Revolution Charter, which allows Captain Ibrahim Traoré to contest an election. To educational matters, the Liberian Ministry of Education has launched the 2025-2026 annual school census, aiming to modernize the country's academic landscape through empirical evidence. By prioritizing the collection of high-fidelity data, the ministry is establishing a vital roadmap to address systemic disparities and enhance the quality of instruction. WADR's Monrovia correspondent Ibrahim Parker reports.
The census, expected to end on April 27, 2026, will be channeled through the country's district and county education offices, where it will undergo sophisticated digital processing and systematic analysis. Deputy Minister Thomas Parker said the scope of exercise is designed to capture a comprehensive portrait of the educational ecosystem across all 15 counties and 125 education districts. He added that the census will cover early childhood programs to secondary and technical vocational institutions.
This year, we are prioritizing data quality assurance, real-time validation, and stronger collaboration with county education officers, while increasing the use of digital tools for collection and monitoring. We call on all community members, school management committees, district and county education officers, MAE and planning officers, and of course the students, local government officials to cooperate fully during this period. We can ensure that the 2025-2026 annual school census delivers accurate, timely, and actionable data.
He further stated, during the official launch, that the ministry has mobilized trained school administrators and central office personnel to conduct the process. The expected outcome will be instrumental in informing critical reforms regarding equitable funding models, the strategic deployment of teaching staff, and the reinforcement of institutional accountability. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
The guest interview focuses on Benin, where political debates are heating up ahead of the country's presidential election. The ruling party's candidate, Rumel Wadaning, is running alongside Paul Humphrey of the False Kuriopu on Benin Emergent. Our guest is Morgan Asogba, a Benin's political analyst.
Well, currently the voters, I can't say that they have so much choices. There is basically one major situation right here. There is a candidate that is being known of belonging to the majority, and that has quite a huge landscape of capability because he's being backed by parties that are in parliament. And aside that, you have a huge number of youth movements supporting him. So basically, he's the only one that is being seen really when it comes to the campaign. The other candidate is doing his best, but in terms of ability to connect to people, he's quite limited in the process. So the choice that the people will have to make on these key major, let's say, appointment is to decide whether they are going to vote or to stay at home. And you can see that the people coming out to vote, it's going to be a real factor of giving high legitimacy to the election process that is being ongoing.
What are the real concerns of the Beninese people as these politicians engage them during this campaign period?
Well, the voters are interested basically on one thing. How do they make sure that they are capable of getting relevant jobs and making sure that they can feed themselves, feed their families, and being able to take advantage of all the development process that has been ongoing for the past 10 years. This simply means that currently in Benin, the economy or the economical capability is at the heart of the discussions that address efficiently their interest in having financial capability in order to be able to buy anything they want when you look at the market condition. And this is even more relevant because the whole world is facing an economical crisis right now, which is conditioned by all the wars that are ongoing, have been faced through the last few years.
That's very interesting, sir. But regarding the non-participation of a major opposition party, the Democrats, in which one of its founding fathers, former President Boni Yayi, and his son are supporting the majority candidate in this election, how do you think this will affect or impact voter turnout or public trust in the electoral process?
Well, currently, because aside the former President Boni Yayi and his son that have come out to support the majority candidate, there are some key leaders of these very opposition parties, such as the former leader of the party, President Eric Hunete, and Mr. Gimi Tokpe, who are all key personalities of the political party, with many others of their collaborators or partisans that have come out to support the majority leaders in what they call the Republican Pact. And this shows the people that the whole country, politically speaking, seems to be aligned to support the majority candidate. But it also brings in a major concern about the value and the quality and the vision of the political actors when it comes to the opposition. It's just amazing and highly surprising.
Morgan Asogba is a Benin's political analyst. And in sports, the Senegalese sports world is in shock following the terrible traffic accident involving the ASC Gajagal di Bakel team bus. The tragedy occurred between Bala and Goudiri as the team was returning to its home base after a match play in Kaolack. The toll is heavy, with 10 victims rushed to the hospital in Tambacounda. The club sadly announced the death of its goalkeeper Fallou J, who succumbed to his injuries, leaving his teammates and fans in deep sorrow. And that's the latest in the world of sports. With that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal on 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. Thank you for listening. Many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Mauda Ju for the technical support. To interact with us via our social media platforms, including X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English. I am Augustine Curley. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Radio Bath FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.